So, this is probably going to be the weirdest thing I've ever made, but I want to explain a couple things, okay? Alright, so, Five Nights at Freddy's, right? I mean, come on, everybody knows what that is. It's this funny little silly horror game with the little they got the bear, they got the bunny, they got the chicken, and they got the fox, you know, the one with the hook on his hand. Well, thing is that over the years, there have been more and more franchises and a lot more plot that people just can't seem to fucking figure out. Like, it's kind of hard to understand. Something that started as simple as, you know, these Chuck E. Cheese animatronic things, you know, walking around a pizzeria to all of a sudden... But basically, I'm making this video because I want to try and summarize it, the lore, without thinking about it. I have no script for this video. I'm just thinking with my brain about what the hell it's about even, because it's fun to do. And then also, it might be useful to hear it from somebody that's not, you know, constantly trying to theorize about it. Because one thing for sure is that there are concrete facts about the games that we actually know that I want to try and explain. A lot of the thing is just like speculation, but there is like concrete evidence for some things. So I'll try to explain, like, you know, the things that we know. And if there's something that like is a little debated, I'll maybe bring it up. I maybe might not. I might just bring up my own interpretation of it. But when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, nobody knows. It's all speculation. Like, I could genuinely tell you, nobody has a concrete answer, and I don't think we ever will get one. I think it's mostly up to interpretation. So if anything, this is my interpretation of the entire Five Nights at Freddy's lore. So, where do we start? Well, the first most important part is, of course, the Afton family. Who the hell is the Afton family? Do we hear about this in the games? Not really. I think it mainly started out as something from the books. It started out with the Silver Eyes, the Fourth Closet, and whatever the frickin' third one is. I don't remember this shit. It's not my job to remember. It all starts out with the Afton family. William Afton, Elizabeth Afton, the crying child, we don't really know his name, and Michael Afton. And a mom. I don't, whatever, we don't know about her. William Afton is one of the co-founders of the Freddy Fazbear's Institute. He is friends with this dude named Henry. Emily, I think Emily's his last name. I don't know. Again, we hear nothing about Henry unless you read the books. Like, you have to read the books in order to understand that, which is why it's garbage. Nobody fucking likes it. Anyway, basically, William and Henry both came together and were like, hey, let's make Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And they didn't actually make Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It was actually Fredbear's Family Diner that they made. Henry dressed up in the Fredbear outfit, and then William Afton dressed up as the Rabbit. These costumes were not animatronics. They were spring-locked suits, and we'll get more to that later. That becomes a big part of the lore. At Fredbear's Family Diner, William Afton gets a little, you know, delusional and does a couple, you know, murders. I would hardly call them murders. I mean, you know, they're cheap stuff. But basically, he killed a ton of kids. And so, after he killed all these kids, Henry's like, hey, don't do that, maybe. And he's like, screw you. Then they separate, and they're like, yeah, let's not do this anymore. So Henry goes on to create more of the Freddy Fazbear places and stuff. William is like, I'm gonna make a rival to it. So we make Sister Location, which is a game, by the way. That's the game. The actual place is called Baby's fucking Circus. I don't fucking know. He makes this place. 4 more animatronics. They got a baby, they got Funtime Foxy, they got Ballora, and they got Funtime Freddy, who's the best one, by the way. And then he's like, you know, oh, baby's like the perfect, you know, singing animatronic. She can sing, she can dance, she can kill my daughter. Yeah, because his daughter's like, I want ice cream, and the baby's like, I want to kill you. Because basically inside of some of the animatronics, because William Afton's like insane or whatever, like, you know, trapped inside the stomach. And then he gets all sad. He's like, well, man, okay. And then he's like, I'm gonna make sure both my other children, the crying child and Michael Afton, don't do things like Elizabeth did. The crying child gets locked in his room all day. And then one day his birthday comes and he goes to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and he gets his frontal lobe bit, I guess. And then he dies. The thing is that it was speculated for a long time that his frontal lobe was bitten. So basically, there's two separate theories. Dream theory, and then we'll get to that part later. Dream theory is the theory that the crying child's head was basically bitten and that he is currently in a hospital bed for the entirety of the plot of FNAF 4 nights, basically. And everything that you see in the game is hallucinations of his nightmares and stuff like that. Whether that's true or not. So basically, the crying child is in his bed and, you know, he's dying and stuff and he's got all these dreams and then he finally fucking dies. William Afton gets really upset. And by the way, this is all Michael Afton's fault. Because Michael was like, I'm going to put him in the head of the animatronic guy. See, it's already a lot and I just started. It probably doesn't make any sense to anybody. So basically, we talked about Sister Location, which is basically FNAF 5. We've talked about FNAF 4, and then we've got FNAF 2. FNAF 2 is based on Henry's location of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Basically, it's this location where most of the murders happen, and then animatronics start getting haunted, basically. So Henry is like, you know, doing all this stuff, and William Afton, you know, comes up in his purple car, and oh, there's a child outside. Bam! Kills that child. The child's dead. Henry's sad because the child just so happened to be his daughter. And the daughter haunts the puppet because the puppet goes after her. Dude, I don't know. Then what happens is, I guess FNAF 1. FNAF 1 happens. I don't know, there's not much to say about that. I guess something that I should talk about is the fact that in FNAF 2, because it's a prequel, the wither animatronics in FNAF 2 are the same as the ones in FNAF 1, but it's not the animatronics from FNAF 1. The animatronics in FNAF 1 are the animatronics for FNAF 2. There's no really plot in that. It's just like the basic lore for that game was like, hey, kids were murdered and they haunt these animatronics. And it's like, okay. FNAF 3, honestly, probably the easiest one to play, and it has, I would say, the most lore. We find out that William Afton did a little trolling. He basically starts taking apart a ton of the animatronics at the FNAF 1 location. Why? I don't really know. Speculation is that he wanted Remnant for something, which Remnant is a whole other freaking dude. It's so sophisticated. It's so dumb. Remnant is a whole other thing we don't need to get into because it's just way too confusing. Basically, William Afton takes apart a ton of animatronics at the FNAF 1 location, and then the spirits that haunt the animatronics are like, screw you, stop fucking with the animatronics. And he's like, oh shit, I'm fucking terrified. And he goes inside this fucking, he goes inside his Springlock suit where he kills all like the children and usually, and he's like, ha, I got you now. And then a bit of water drops into his Springlock suit, and the Springlock suit is like a suit full of springs that you need to crank open in order to get into. But any like sudden movements or like water that gets into them causes the spring locks to like close in. So basically, they closed in on him, and he didn't end up pretty good. He did not end up very good. But this is basically based after FNAF 1. And then there's a huge time skip to literally FNAF 3, where you play as the Night Guard and you try to stop Springtrap. FNAF 3 is a horror location. It's called Fazbear Frights, which is also a book that we will not talk about. Fazbear Frights is a horror attraction where people go into this, you know, old pizzeria where, you know, people used to go, and there's a lot of, you know, bad things that happen here, so it's kind of scary. Phone dude finds the spring trap guy. He finds William, and they're like, oh shoot, we found an animatronic. But what they don't know is that a psycho murderer is possessing the body of the Springlock suit, which, by the way, is the Springlock suit with William Afton is what we refer to as Springtrap. Springtrap is the amalgamation of both their bodies, and he's creepy, like, because the body is still inside the suit and you can see that, but you don't know that until like the end of FNAF 3. Like, that entire idea to me was like so terrifying to me as a kid in middle school. I was like, oh my god. The entire time we're playing and we don't know that there's like literally like a fleshy body inside. Anyway, what happens is the pizzeria gets burned down. The Fazbear Fries pizzeria gets burned down. Why? I don't know. It says in the newspaper at the end of the game that it's because of an electrical like malfunction or whatever. There's speculation that it was Henry that burned it down. There's speculation that Michael burned it down. There's a big speculation that the person you play as in all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games is Michael Afton trying to wrong his rights about putting his brother inside Fredbear's head. Is that true? Literally, we have no clue. We only know that's true for Sister Location. In Sister Location, this is based after FNAF 3 at this point, when he goes back to the Sister Location. But technically, Baby's Pizza World is based before FNAF 2. Michael, this is actually Michael, we know this is canon, that Michael is visiting the pizzeria. He goes through the nights and stuff, and he gets on Baby's side, but what happens is all of the animatronics of the pizzeria like combine, and they become something called Ennard. And then at the end of the night, they scoop out Michael's insides and then replace his insides with their body. Really weird, but it gets weirder. They use his body to walk around, act like a normal human being and stuff like that. But then his body begins to rot, and instead of like turning green, it literally turns purple. Which is why there was a lot of confusion when that happened. Because basically, something I haven't talked about is William Afton is supposed to be purple guy. Michael Afton is Michael Afton. He's different. So when we see this cutscene of him, his skin literally turning purple, we're like, he's purple guy. No, he's not purple guy. Why his skin turns purple, we don't know. Basically, there's two purple guys, one that's literally purple, and one that we just use as an example and call him purple before we even knew his name. Michael Afton's body eventually rejects all of the skeletal insides of his body into like a sewer, and then somehow he's still alive? Like, he haunts his own body? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. But to be fair, we're talking about fucking Chuck E. Cheese animatronics at this point. It just like, none of it makes sense. But I'm trying to make sense of it. Now we get to the important part. Basically what happens with the amalgamation Ennard is Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Ballora reject Baby from the Ennard body. Those three become something called Molten Freddy, and Baby comes into Scrap Baby. And then what happens is the events of FNAF 6, which is actually called Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, because it originally started as a pizzeria simulator and everybody thought it was going to be, but it was not. It was actually a full-on game. What happens in this game? You run an office and you run a pizzeria and stuff, speculatively as Michael Afton. So basically Michael Afton is running. I don't know if that's true or not. I kind of think it is. I don't know. While you're running this location, all of the animatronics from past locations with haunted souls you get to basically interact with. So Scrap Baby eventually comes into the location, you have to fend her off. Springtrap does, except for now he's called Scrap Trap, and he looks very dumb. When Freddy comes in, an animatronic called Lefty comes in. Now, what is the importance of Lefty? Well, remember how I talked about how the puppet was haunted by Henry's daughter, whose name is, I didn't say this, but her name is Charlie. Charlie haunts the puppet, and then Henry's like, okay, well, how do I get the puppet over to this location? Lefty is an animatronic that is used to store the puppet. All of these animatronics are brought here, and Henry is trying to kill them all and set their souls free. They all die in a fiery fucking thing. Are their souls freed? We kind of think so. We're pretty sure that the puppet's soul is free. That's basically the first portion. Now the second portion is a lot more brief because it's what came recently with the new games. So the next two games are Help Wanted and security breach. In Help Wanted, what happens is this is set way after the events of FNAF 6, so the pizzeria is already burned down. Basically what happens is a company is trying to make a VR game, and then they scan like old computer chips of like old data from the past locations, and inside of those computer chips it's even funny like trying to say it out loud. It's so dumb. Inside the computer chips was the soul of William Afton. They take those chips and they put them in the game, and then all of a sudden William Afton's like presence is made inside the game. Oh my god. Oh. One of the playtesters, or we don't know if it's a playtester or not, basically, oh my god, this part gets so annoying because we have no clue. Oh my god. Basically, what we assume is someone named Vanny puts on the headset, plays the game, gets haunted, or gets mind-controlled by the spirit of William Afton, also known as Glitchtrap, and then becomes basically a minion of Glitchtrap. And then what happens is security breach. What happens in the game is you play as this guy named Gregory. Is he a robot? Why would you assume that? Like, why would you have to assume that Gregory's a robot? He looks like a child, but everybody thinks he's a robot. I don't know if he's a robot, and it fucking annoys me because why do we have to question these things? He's a guy. He's a kid. He's been living in the pizzeria, we think. He travels along with Glamrock Freddy, who is one of the animatronics of this huge mall pizzaplex, trying to find a way out. But this entire time, the person that was haunted by Glitchtrap, Vanny, is trying to hunt him, as well as the security guard named Vanessa. See, this is the annoying part, is we don't know if Vanny and Vanessa are connected, because it's vague. If someone's name is Vanessa, V-A-N-N-E-S-S-A, and somebody's name is Vanny, V-A-N-N-Y, it's comparable to assume that their names are connected and that they are the exact same person. Are they? I don't fucking know. A lot of theories suggest that, yes, they are the same person. Whether it's true or not, we have no clue. These two people are trying to hunt Gregory, while Gregory is trying to make his way through the pizzaplex and try to basically get out. The problem with Security Breach is that there's so many endings that it's confusing as to which one is canon, basically. But there is a specific ending where it ends and you're like, okay, this is probably it. It's the one where Gregory and Glamrock Freddy find an underground area where they run into, believe it or not, this guy, William Afton, Springtrap. I forget his name in this one because he's called something else. Oh, he's called Burntrap. That's right. Because of this, he's got his chin's like exposed. So we assume that he burned because he's burned literally so many times and is still alive. The thing about this game is that there's something that William Afton says that we just latch on to, and it's called, he always says, I always come back. And it's funny because he does, but at this point it's getting really repetitive, and it's like, okay, we get it, he's back again, even though he's been back like 50 different times. When are we gonna get a new villain? They find him and they're like, okay, we gotta stop him, and then they stop him, and then the pizzeria starts to break and stuff, and this thing called the Blob, which is an amalgamation of all these animatronics and their souls. I don't fucking know. Basically, it takes in William Afton and whatever, and then Gregory and Funtime Freddy get out, and they're like, cool, we're done. And that's the end of the game. And the plot right now, supposedly there's supposed to be a DLC coming out, and also a movie. The movie might explain a couple things from the first half of the franchise at the moment, but the DLC, we have no clue what it's going to be about. Do I think it's going to answer any questions? Honestly, no. There are so many things I did not talk about, especially because a lot of the plot comes from the books. which are things that nobody wants to read in order to understand the plot. But we have to. I own a couple of them, and I've read them, and I'm like, okay, I can see how this can like link, but some of the stories are just not important at all. I didn't even mention Ultimate Custom Night, which is a whole thing in itself. Basically the speculation, because a lot of it is speculation, we don't even know what it means sometimes. There are so many things that hint to what the games are about in them, like cutscenes that are like animations, mini games. There's a ton of stuff in it that we just can't assume that hints to it being basically William Afton in Limbo. I didn't even talk about a lot of the frickin' mini games in Pizzeria Simulator. There's a ton of mini games that try to hint to us the plot. There's something that Candy Cadet says. There's the stupid Midnight Motorist minigame that we don't fucking like. We hate that shit, dude. That shit is the most confusing fucking thing that has ever come out of the franchise. We don't talk about it. But we have to, because it's, for some reason, also the most important part of the story. There's a lot I didn't talk about, because a lot of it, again, is speculation that we have no clue if it's, like, even canon or not. There's a whole AR game, and whether that is even canon, we don't know. But basically, I just told you what we do officially know. And obviously, if you want to check out the other shit, there's, like, other channels for that. But I'm not a theorist. I watch theories, and I go, yeah, that's probably true. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That was my interpretation of Five Nights at Freddy's lore. Did I probably get all of it right? No. Did I get any of it wrong? No. Fuck